I have some questions for you.
Okay.
We actually met, I think, wasn't it? I don't know how many years ago, Rod.
Tradex.
It was Tradex.
17.
Okay, Rod says 2017, and I remember watching you teaching different people how to fly cast, and I remember trying, and that was kind of. I don't know. I haven't really met Phil, or
Nope.
I don't know where I'm going with this. I saw.
No, but I followed you guys. I like you. I have a YouTube channel, so I follow. I like YouTube. I like the medium that it is, and the great way you can learn to fish, how to fix a tap in the kitchen, all kinds of things. And I'd seen you guys, so I wanted to meet you as well. So it's great that you were able to finally come out and sort of play in my neck of the woods as well.
Well, I've loved being here so far, and it's only day one. We still have tomorrow, and we're going to be targeting rainbow trout and tigers. So not real tigers, like tiger trout. So questions, how long have you been fishing for?
Well, I started fishing when I was about, I think, 5 years old in England, where I was born, and we emigrated to Canada when I was 7, so we were fishing for coarse fish there. And then moved to Chilliwack area, lived there for a year, and then grew up on Vancouver Island. And, just growing up in the 70s, you just walked down to the end of the street, and there was the ocean, so you threw things in the water and see what you could catch. I remember we used to chase, we had a little inflatable raft. We used to row out to this little rocky pinnacle. It was covered in those giant goose barnacles.
Gooseneck barnacles.
About, 10 minutes in, we'd already put a hole that big in the raft, so we were trying to patch that up out on there and fishing around a kelp bed. And we'd fish with buzz bombs, and we'd run out of those. And then we'd fish with, we'd have a plate of Rhys Davies anchovies. We'd run out of those, and then we'd crimp tinfoil around a hook. And then,
you guys that's expensive.
Hardcore, yeah, well. And then go back and do it again. So, crabbing, shrimping, catching fish, all that fun stuff.
And this is with your family too, like everybody in your family, or is it more friends?
No, just me. I was the fisherman. My dad was into woodworking, and cabinet work was his sort of hobby. My mom wasn't. My sister doesn't. I just liked fishing and just went out and sort of stumbled around and figured it out myself. And then in my early 20s, I got introduced to fly fishing and never looked back. It just, some little switch in this little tiny mind of mine went, and I've been doing it ever since.
So, but why fly fishing?
I like the challenge. I was intrigued by I felt better connected to the environment. All of a sudden I understood how lakes worked, weed beds, structure, the food sources, hatches, all of those things. And I was just, when I conventional fished, you just put on whatever somebody told you to, whatever's shiny and,
color.
And just drove around and hopefully you caught something. So with fly fishing, it was, I think I just like the detective work, the puzzle solving that you have to do with it, and just sort of evolved from there.
See, I need to get that mindset because I totally rely on this looks good, let's just throw it in and see what we can get. Oh, there's no fish there, I guess there's no fish. But I need to be more of a detective when fishing. And I said right at the beginning of the day, it felt like when Rod and I were with you, we were hunting because we moved from like spot to spot, and you were reading the sounder, looking at what was around you. You knew where the drop-offs were, where the weed beds started. So yeah, you're a fishing
looking for
detective.
structure. Well, when we were catching walleye, I soon, after a couple of trips out, said these are just like trout. They love weed beds. They love drop-offs. They love sunken islands, points, the same kind of structure. So all I'm doing is taking the same trout mentality and just tweaking it a little bit for the characteristics of a walleye. What do you know? You start catching them.
And you were saying you prefer trout over walleye?
Oh yeah.
That's your favorite? And why is that?
I just like the way they fight. I like there's quite a lot of detective work with them as well. I like chironomid fishing, love chironomid fishing. It's a big addiction, so I like that small fly stuff. I just like the trout and the environments they live in. All fish tend to live in pretty places, so that makes it nice, but I still, you go to where you're comfortable. I love my trout.
I was going to say, Phil, you're saying how fly fishing is like, you're a detective and there's so much stuff to learn and solve in order to be successful. Well, what happens if you're somebody like me who really struggles getting into fly fishing, and I have these walls up and it's hard for me to bring them down?
Well, you can, as always, again, the world we live in now, there's so much online resources. The good old, nothing will replace a good old book. getting out with people who fly fish as well and seeing what they do and learning what they do. There's fly clubs you can belong to, fly shows you can go to, all those kind of things, and just absorb at a pace you're comfortable with, right? Sometimes people kind of, it's like trying to drink out of a fire hose, right? It's just overwhelming, where it's better to take maybe a little sip out of a dribbling garden hose and just learn it slowly, right? Because it can be overwhelming, and it's, I think you fish a lot, obviously, and you know that every day is different, every hour seems to be different, every fish has got a little quirk, things change all the time, and I think I like that too. It's never stale. Every day it's different, every hour it seems to be different, every location change it's a little different, and that's part of the fun.
They keep you on your toes, keep you thinking.
Yeah, for a critter with such a supposedly small brain, they sure pound us consistently.
So you've been around this earth a long time. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm joking. You're an experienced angler, and you've been around, as a part of the fly fishing community for a while. Has it changed in any way?
Oh yeah, it's gotten in some ways smaller. When I remember, just if we use writing as an example, I started writing magazine articles, and you used to send a letter out that you typed on a typewriter. You may not know.
What's that?
Yeah, I know. Right around when rotary dial phones were still around. You probably don't know what those are.
Like the big cell phones?
No, before cell phones.
Like the one that's here?
Not quite that old.
Oh, geez, I totally know what it is.
But we used to send letters off, typewritten letters, with a submission idea, and you'd wait patiently, like waiting for Christmas. You'd get the letter back, and right, and then you would send your submission in if you're lucky to get, yep, that sounds interesting, we'd like to publish that. You'd actually send it in. I think at the time you used to send written ones in, and now you're sending on a 3.5-inch floppy disk, if you remember what those
I do remember the square floppy disk.
Well, now everything, step forward nowadays, it's all done on email, it's all sent electronically, images are transferred by FTP, like the way the world is modernized, it's also affected the fly fishing industry too. It's a smaller industry, we can get around social media. If you think about social media, companies years ago would pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for, if you're not on social media, you're not really out there, are you?
You're not anybody.
You're not anybody, right? Well, you are, of course. That's entirely a personal thing, but it's changed. That's what's changed it so much. So it's a smaller world, a more instantaneous world, just like life in general, and that's both good and bad. And sometimes you can't get away and have a break. Other times it works to your advantage. We're within cell phone range here. We can upload to Instagram. We can do our stories. We can answer emails. Fishing's supposed to get you away from...
We can meet each other?
Yes.
I don't think we would have known each other or ever fished together if it wasn't for social media.
Yep, exactly.
Right?
I want to send you somewhere. I send you a pin. You punch that into your iPhone and off you go. What the world do before iPhones and Androids?
I don't know.
It's hard to imagine. Would you go back to one? There's always somebody that says, yeah, I would. But it's the same with electronics. I love electronics in boats, and most fly fishers don't use them or think it's cheating, and I call them sounders, but they're on a lake, invaluable. It tells you bottom structure, obviously depth, water temperature, weeds versus rocks, all those kind of things. You need to know that because the lake's pretty featureless. It doesn't put its hand up and wave at you. I'm over here.
Or it's not like a river where you can walk by it and you can see the structure.
Yeah, if you were a fish, if I would sit behind that rock, or I'd sit there, and I wouldn't sit in that 2 feet of water with totally exposed. Right, we're a lake. The water color today, we're not sure how deep we are. We could be in 4 feet of water. We could be in 44 feet of water.
Well, at one point we were in the middle of the lake and Phil's like slowing down. I'm like, what's going on? Why are we stopping and fishing here? We're in the middle. And he's like, no, it's just 4 feet of water.
Yeah,
like 4 feet.
I always slow down over shallow water just in case something's sticking up.
Yeah. But you're saying that you really enjoy like electronics, and we're not just talking about the sounder. You actually enjoy filming fishing stuff as well as fishing.
Yes, that was a natural byproduct of fishing, was the photography. You want to, your girlfriend, your wife, your son, your daughter, your mother, your dad, whatever, look what I did today, look what I caught, look what I got to see, right? And hopefully maybe inspire them to come with you or come out or try it. And that started with photography. And then of course when you start getting into writing, no article is worth anything without some good pictures to support it, to support the concepts or whatever you're talking about.
Visuals. And
of course you get into that, and then I got into, with the fly tying I do, taking pictures of flies and then insects, macro photography, and that's, I learned that doing slide film, which was real trial and error, lots of shooting 36 pictures and then almost crying on the desk going, I can't get the hang of this, because there wasn't any information. You had to self-teach yourself. And nowadays, you know, the photography now has morphed into video, and then that's fun, and vlogging like you guys do. I do that as well. I do tying videos. It's just a great medium to learn. You know, YouTube is the second largest search engine on the planet, behind Google, who owns YouTube, and such a powerful way to learn something.
I totally enjoy documenting our fishing trips as well, and for me it's more of like almost like a scrapbook where I can store and treasure the memories. I can go back at any time I want to. There's the date, something that I've written up that I wouldn't remember, you know, now.
Settles a lot of arguments too. We were here at that tape. No, we weren't. Yes, we were. There we go. It's like, uh-oh. Have to eat crow. I was wrong.
Oh, no, yeah. I do. I love documenting it. And for me, like I was saying earlier to you guys in conversations, fishing has provided some of the best memories for me. And so why would you not want to take, you know, the time to document those moments? Because you never want to forget them.
No, we're both fortunate
and to share them with others.
You know, have some fun and do some of this. I'm fortunate that I get to earn a good portion of my living nowadays after 23 years in the auto insurance and collision business, where something bad has to happen before somebody wants to see you and then they're not happy, to come to this. You know, when I guide people now or do schools or seminars, everybody wants to be there. Everybody wants to learn. You know, and that's
much
fun.
Better environment.
Oh, totally better.
And you've been over, I can't even count all the places you talked about today.
Yeah, I speak all over North America. So this year alone, it started for me in Denver, and then I've been to New Jersey. I spoke to a club in Philadelphia. I've been to Salt Lake City. I've been to California, the Bay Area, Bend, Oregon, Seattle, British Columbia, obviously, TradeX show. I go there every year. I was back in Eastern Canada. I was up in the Northwest Territories, because once the sort of winter leaves and spring comes, then I start on the water seminars. So I do hosted trips out to Manitoba and to British Columbia. I guide locally whenever I'm home. Do hosted trips. In December, I'm going to Argentina for the third time to fish Lago Strobel, better known as Jurassic Lake. Do hosted trips out there. So as much as I can to do, and I've got YouTube like you guys, online store with myself and Brian Chan that we do. We've got a Stillwater fly fishing app as well that goes. Working on a book. There's no shortage of work.
You just do everything.
Well, I got to learn to say no is what I got to say.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
So when you're traveling all over North America and you're going to these many trade shows that you go to, are you talking about BC or Alberta, or do you know the area so well that you're traveling to that you talk about the fisheries there?
All of the above. I speak, I'm an ambassador for Fishing BC,
yep.
So I talk at certain shows about the fishing opportunities in BC. I talk about, trips I've been on, the territories for lake trout and grayling, the trips and schools I do out in Manitoba each year, the ones I do in BC, and then I just do generic how to fish lake seminars, understanding structure, how to fish chironomids, strike indicator techniques, sinking line techniques. I have a whole folder full of PowerPoint seminars, and then I do the hosted trips too. So I take people to these places, sort of help get them there, help them with flights. What
in other places, or the places that you visited and fished before?
And there, okay. And I also try, whenever I do a show, if weather and the season permits, is to stick around for a day or two, and fish their local waters, and then it gives me the ability to talk about a certain technique and go, it works because I just fished it on Lake X, and they're all like, oh, I fished Lake X. Yeah, I fished that a number of times. So I try to fish. I've had the good fortune, I have fished in every western state and province, right? As far
You've been to every province and every state?
Every western. So Ontario.
Western.
Yeah, I fished Labrador, Newfoundland, but I fished Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, British Columbia. Good, I got that right. And then I fished Washington State, Oregon, California, Nevada, Wyoming, Montana. Love going down to Montana, Arizona, all those kind of places. And I try to hit. There's, North America, Western North America is blessed with some incredible lake fishing. So it's a chance to go and explore that, and you'll find that, there's little nuances, but what works in British Columbia works in Montana, works in California, works in Ontario.
Oh, okay, because I was going to say, like, when you go, honestly, a lake in BC that I could have passed and driven by so many times, I still don't even know where to start because I don't really like fish. I'm more into rivers. So when you go to places like California, you must have to know like the season or the fish that are there. But you said that the principles that you do up here in Canada, you can take those and use them down there.
Yeah, that's just a function of experience. That in lakes, I look for three things: comfort, protection, and food. So comfort are it's all related primarily to water temperature because of its ability to hold oxygen. So every fish has a specific temperature range that they like, and it's not because they're warm or cold, it's because their ability to breathe. So that's a really important factor for me. So I'm a big believer in water temperature, find the right temperature. So if we look at trout, for example, I'm looking 55 to 65. I jokingly call it their happy zone. Their metabolism is functioning at peak efficiency. They're going to eat, and they're going to be mobile, they're going to be active. We can catch them. And then the weather is a factor too. Trout in lakes, particularly trout and fish in lakes, seem to be more sensitive to weather change, whether that's barometric pressure, changing in light, wind, moving water cooling because of cold fronts. It's like, I always say the world's like a snow globe and Mother Nature just went and shook it all up, and until that all settles out, it kind of knocks them off the food for a little bit.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah. And then there's the food, right? Because fly fishing is primarily based on imitating whatever you're chasing, imitating the food source, right? So you got to understand the life cycles and where things live and how they move and when they're active and if they hatch, how do they hatch? Do they crawl out of the water? Do they emerge at the surface? All these different things that just get your mind in a mess most days, but all you're trying to figure that out. So if you apply that logic to every lake, right, then you're going to find fish.